Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche pregame presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Use code DNVR when you sign up for a new account to get amazing odds boosts every single day. Rudo, Blais, AJ coming at you as the Avs take on the Kraken. They're going for their 12th straight win at home.
I did it again.
You're a QAnon influencer now, AJ.
You're hacked. Dude.
Avs also going for their 5th straight win in a row.
What the fuck is going on?
AJ can't figure out how to tweet the right YouTube link right now. He's struggling out here. Anyway, let's face it. The Seattle Kraken are not very good, are they, Blais?
No.
So
I'm at a loss in my ability to tweet a link right now. Okay, watch me do this.
I'm ready.
Oh, well, now, of course.
Can't even copy the link. Yeah, that hasn't been working for me either. It didn't work for me the other night to try and copy the link.
So what I'm going to do is
go to YouTube, get it that way. It's the way you got to do it.
Could be an ID 10T error. You never know.
Maybe.
You know what? You know what we're going to do? We're just going to retweet you guys.
Mine's the wrong link, so retweet Blais.
What the hell, dude?
Blais got the right one. Thank you for the $5, Pin King. You're welcome, AJ. Now stop screwing up. On the Avs side of tonight, Gabe Landeskog is out of the game. Tested positive for COVID, so he will be in protocol for the next little while. They are getting some players back. We'll talk about them in a second, but main focus tonight is going to be Gabe Landeskog on the forward side and how they replace him. Are the Avs cursed, Blais?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Do you believe in curses? Because if you do, they are absolutely cursed. There is no explanation for what's going on. And I feel like there's other teams running into the same issue. Obviously, with COVID being on top of it, it makes it a little bit, these things are coming up a lot more often for each team. But, man, between the injuries and COVID for the Avalanche, it just feels like they're never healthy. There was how many games did we get here where we had the same lineup?
There was 3 games in a row. No, it was only 2 because Jack Johnson got hurt.
Yeah, in that first one. Yep.
And then beyond that, the Avs have yet to play a game with their full 12 forwards. this whole season. It has not happened yet with their starting 12. So, as NICHUSKIN is back tonight, but Landy, the sacrifice. And I think a lot of the frustration of it is so many of these injuries are not even coming in hockey games. Obviously, the COVID stuff testing positive after the facts. And then Val NICHUSKIN or Darcy Kemper earlier in the year in practice and warm-ups where they're just mysteriously hurt now.
Yeah, Kemper takes a puck to the head and misses a week.
Yeah. It's weird stuff. But, look, Avs have continued to battle through it this whole season. AJ, how do they get by without Landy for the next 5 days or so?
Yeah, well, he's an important loss, right? And it seems both obvious and dumb to say that Gabe Landeskog is important to them. But when you really start to look at who has excelled this year, and you look at Landeskog, that it hasn't really mattered. The line mates, really the top line has been mostly together for the last several weeks now.
Yeah.
But he's really been quite good all season long. His scoring profile is balanced. It's not extremely one or the other. He does a little bit of everything for them. He's always been the glue guy to their top line, but way better than your classic glue guy. Landy, it's actually been crazy to see, because normally guys have, what's happening with Kadri, what's happening with who we'll get to here in a minute in NICHUSKIN. Guys going into contract years, having career years is very normal.
Par for the course, yeah.
It's just a thing that happens. They have got that little extra every single day. They know that they have something bigger on the line. And with Landeskog, it's almost the opposite. It's almost like you wondered if last year, not that it weighed on him because he wasn't bad last year, but that it gave him a sense of relief where now he's just like, I'm going to be an Av forever. This is done now. They gave me 8 years. I am here through my 30s. Let's go and do this thing now. We have unfinished business. Let's get to it. And it's almost easy for me to say that it took the pressure, some of the pressure off of him, and now he can just focus on. He never has to think about his contract again. He signed 2 contracts with the Avs, a 7-year deal and an 8-year deal, and he's done.
Yeah.
He's finished.
Well,
and that's done. His money is taken care of. His kids are taken care of. Everything is good to go. And then had a couple of kids. Dad strength time.
Well, he didn't
Found a new level this year. He's been awesome.
He didn't fall trap to the David Jones effect, right? He didn't slack off once he got the bag.
You mean of just not actually being that
Just
good?
disappearing.
Like David Jones is your classic, like, soon as he got paid, he also got to be 27 and 28 and started to fall off just enough. And
He got his bag and ran.
well, and like also just was not that, like, there was a really thin line between quality player and not an NHL caliber player anymore. We saw that with, a guy like P.A. Parento as well.
Yeah.
He got his free agent contract. First couple of years of it went really well. By the end of it, you're like, oh my God, what is this?
I think we call that the Brandon Yip line.
Yeah. So with Landy, I just think that with Landy, he got paid, and then his game has found a different level. And you look at the leadership of it. It's been normally leadership is one of those things it's hard to quantify. It's hard to see tangible evidence of. This year we've seen a ton of it because the roster has been in constant flux. Because guys have been all over the place. It would have been easy for them, especially after a 4-5-1 start. It would have been really easy for the team and the organization to get really, really tight and to kind of lean into that all season. And it's what? They started 4-5-1 and they've lost 3 games since?
They have, I think it's 4 now.
4 now,
but still less losses in the last
3 regulation losses.
21 games.
Yeah, where you're
in
just
the first 10.
Yeah, because I was looking at the standings last night and I was like, because we talk about those 10-game segments.
Yep.
And I was like, they went 4-5-1 and now they've gone, I think it's 16-3-1.
Yep.
Since that start, where you're just like, oh.
And one of the regulation losses was the Nashville game.
Yeah.
With 15 skaters they started. 16
Right.
skaters for most of the game.
Yeah, well, and they have, of their losses this year, they have 2 regulation losses in which they started with under the maximum number of skaters and finished with even less because of how the game ended up going.
Yeah.
So it's like 2 of those losses, you're sort of like, well, whatever.
Right.
That Blues game where they walked in basically on one leg.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so pretty good hockey team, put it that way. So Landy's important. We understand that. How do the Avs make it work without him? Who goes up onto the top line?
It'll be interesting because we saw at the end of last game,
Yep.
the top line was both together and apart because those guys, Rantanen and McKinnon, both were getting moved around a lot. And I think some of that is because they continue to waste time with this Curtis McDermott playing 3 minutes a night on the fourth line.
Yeah.
It's not a criticism of him being in the lineup, just mostly a criticism of his usage where it's like,
Literally has nothing to do with McDermott. That's the choice that Bednar and the Avs front office are making.
It's so strange, man. It's really weird to me that they're grinding it out like this so early in the season. The 30-game mark that they are, where they're going to put that extra wear and tear of 2 minutes a night on their top guys, where you're just kind of like, is this necessary?
Yeah.
It's why when they were beating Winnipeg, blowing them out in the third period, you go and you look at that final box score and it's like Logan O'Connor leads the Avs in minutes that night. Like it's a weird
EJ got
like
2
weird
minutes
stuff.
of PP time in that game.
Yeah, and you're like all the forwards end up with 17 minutes. So it's but in a competitive game like the Toronto game, they're trying to come back and they're feeling like they're playing well enough to come back, and they ended up being right about it. Curtis McDermott got 1 shift after the first period.
Yep.
That's tough. And so when you're without Landy and you don't have that kind of ultimate crutch to go to where you just keep, when in doubt, roll your top line every third shift. Well, it's a lot. I think it's a lot tougher.
Landy especially is the type of player that it doesn't matter what the game situation is. Up 2, you're playing Landy. Down 2, you're playing Landy.
Yeah.
Either way, you want him to protect leads and get you back into games. So,
well, he's a gritty, grindy kind of player, right? On that line, his role is to be that grit, that sandpaper, retrieve pucks in the corners.
Yeah.
and give it to your playmaker and your shooter. Basically, that's what the perfect makeup of that line is right
And
there.
with that in mind, how do you replace Landy?
Right.
I think the easy answer with NICHUSKIN coming back, NICHUSKIN replaces Confer on that second line. I think the answer is LOC.
That's
Put LOC on the left side of that line.
Yep.
Because you're going to get all of the try hard. You're going to get the effort. You're going to get the grinding. You're going to get the physicality. And we've seen he's had a little bit of chemistry with everybody this year.
Yeah.
There's been a little bit of finish everywhere that he has been in the lineup. Success has followed him. I don't think the same has been true at the same level for JT Compher, whose a lot of his success came early on. And a lot of it, to be honest with you, is him just tipping pucks, which is fine. Those goals count too.
Yep.
But him doing a lot of the little things, you look at analytically, you look at the results, and you look at the way that Compher has a tendency to kind of drag every line that he's on down a little bit. You don't want that for your top line. You want a guy that's going to at least be able to keep up. If not, you're not going to say elevate the best line in the league.
No.
But not anchor it,
Yeah.
not drag it down. And I think Compher does too much of that. So I'm hoping, that it's LOC. But if they wanted to have that be Berkey, we've seen Berkey be that guy. Now, the reason I don't think Berkey has ever really worked well is because he doesn't do those things.
Yeah.
He's not that physical presence. He's not that complimentary guy. That role, the Landy role, kind of switches over to Rantanen.
Yeah.
And Rantanen, I hate to do this after a 4-point night, but Rantanen does not seem committed to playing that kind of hockey on a consistent enough basis.
And he's not a two-way player. I mean, you'll see glimpses of it here and there.
His defensive zone is a work in progress.
Yeah.
I think it's a great point, though. When you're looking at play styles, you probably look at Berkey as a Rantanen replacement more than a Landy.
Yeah.
Just the way they play stylistically. Yeah. So
yeah,
with Rantanen still there, it's hard to make it work.
And that second line's going to be back together.
Yeah, true. Do you want to mess with what has worked with the Kadri Nuke Berkey line?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm here for LOC on the top line. Still a small part of me that wants to see Newhook there, but understands that that's not really.
I'm not at this point. I'm out on it because I love what he's getting done as a 3C,
center,
and it's just so much more valuable than plugging that really, really temporary hole on a top line that we've seen the top line miss Rantanen, miss Landeskog, hell, it missed McKinnon for a time,
and be fine,
and just kind of just kept on finding success.
Yeah.
Not at the same elite level, but finding success. So I think I think I would just I'm totally out on moving Newhook at all at this point.
I would go LOC, then I would go Knack.
Me too. After last game, I loved him.
Yeah.
I loved him after the last game.
Yeah.
And the problem is, I've done grades on the last couple of games. Last game I gave him an A. The game before that, I gave him an F. And I feel like that's probably been more of the Knack experience than not.
Yeah.
Where it's been like, wow, I love what he's done tonight. Or, oh my God, he took another stupid penalty and then did nothing the entire night. There's not been a lot of mixed bag nights, but overall the body of work has been a mixed bag. I was actually digging into some of his stuff the other day and was like, this is pretty solid.
Yeah.
For a waiver claim to be as good as he have, Knack has really been.
Oh, there it is. Is that?
Yeah.
Berkey on the tops.
Yeah.
I fully just given history.
Yeah.
And as always, take lineups on this team with a grain of salt because you never know.
Especially when you have McDermott still playing it forward.
They're gonna double shift guys.
Yeah, where guys get double shifted around pretty frequently, and they'll pick spots with certain guys.
Yeah.
It's one of the things, especially they do this especially at home where it's obviously much easier to do. Bednar loves to hunt the little matchup with a McKinnon or a Rantanen, where he'll just toss that guy out there onto a random third or fourth line shift and be like,
deal with this.
They're trying to sneak out a shift with their bottom pairing or whatever, and like, we're just gonna throw Mac out for this extra shift and see how it goes.
All right, on the other side of the ice, the Kraken are the second worst team in the West, only better than Arizona. It's been
maybe the most backhanded compliment you could ever give a team. Hey, you're not the worst, but you're only better than Arizona.
Pretty low on the totem pole. And
the worst when it comes to goals scored, though.
Yeah, the least goals scored in the league.
Yeah.
And after the expansion draft, I don't think a lot of people expected Seattle to be extremely good, but they've been exceptionally poor.
I don't think anyone thought they would be a bottom 5 team.
Go back to all of our expansion draft stuff and all of our season stuff. Like, we kept waiting for the team for like them to make a big move that made it all make sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
It never happened. The way that they ended up building the team, where you like build from the back out, made sense in that it was Ron Francis doing it. And then you kind of go back and you look, and some of this is revisionist history because at the time there were a lot of question marks, but like Matt Duchene, Vladimir Tarasenko, Jakub Voracek, all guys that were available in the expansion draft that you could point to and say, boy, that guy would really stand out on this offense.
Objectively just make them better. Yeah.
And when they leaned into Yanni Gourde as the guy that they wanted from Tampa Bay, you knew that there was a problem.
Yep.
Because they didn't either go with a quality player, like a quality player that had a lot of upside, or one of the young guys that you could project into a much bigger role. Yeah. They went right down the middle of the road with Yanni Gourde, and you were just like, okay. And we all saw part of this coming. We saw the poor offense coming. Yeah. We saw they need to be elite defensively to compete. And they haven't been elite defensively, but they've definitely been one of the better defensive teams in the league. The problem is they've gotten league worst goaltending, and boy, the mistakes that they have made are doozies.
Egregious.
You look at some of the Avs defensive breakdowns where you're just like, how is it that a team that is so good defensively when it's at its best can make mistakes like this? How do you have those 33 seconds where Austin Matthews just chews you up?
Yep.
And changes a game. That should have won the game for Toronto.
Yeah.
That should have won the game. And instead, the Avs obviously did a great job coming back, blah, blah, blah. But those kinds of breakdowns, that's the level of breakdown that we're seeing from Seattle this year, where they play a pretty solid game overall, but every mistake ends up in the back of their net, and some of that is goaltending, because obviously Philip Grubauer has been by far, not even close, but by far the worst goaltender. Not starter, no caveats, just the worst goaltender in the NHL this year.
And you can see with this team compared to the Avs especially, not only is their offense bad, their defense makes one mistake and their offense is not enough to get them out of it.
Right. I mean, when you give up, when you're trailing every night, and you're usually trailing early, they're giving, you're giving up the first goal of the game, and you're doing it in the first 10 minutes. You're spending a lot of your time trying to climb the hill. And it's tiring.
Yeah, and the big thing there, too, is like from your goaltender, you want him to stop that first shot, and that hasn't been happening at all back there. I wanted to ask you guys this question. Are you guys superstitious?
No.
I more than AJ, but not really.
More than AJ.
I talk about the universe, but that's because I have respect for powers that are bigger than me.
How about hockey players? Are they superstitious?
Yes. Extremely.
Well, when you don't have a high school education, you got to lean on something.
Oh, no, come on. It's the most educated college sport. Like, they have the best GPA out of college athletes. Anyways, what I was getting to...
A lot of our politicians also went to Harvard and shit.
Good point. This week during practice, Grubauer has been spotted with his Avalanche pads on.
It makes you wonder. It makes you wonder, like, is he just more comfortable?
Yeah.
And maybe it's comfort, maybe it's superstition. I don't know. Who knows, right?
Yeah, it's like one of those things, like, is his new fit wrong? Does he want it to feel like his old gear? Is he going to roll out with burgundy pads on tonight?
Can Jonas Donskoy use the same stick that he used in Colorado? Can he bring his old line mates with him?
So, yeah, the goaltending is egregious, and it's really tough on Seattle's side because they were coming in to the offseason with Chris Driedger as their starter, and they actively went out and got Philip Grubauer to be the starter instead.
Well, they had
him.
They had Chris Driedger and Vitek Vanacek, right?
Yep.
That was and then they had Joey Decord, and they were going to kind of go from there. And obviously Driedger was a big darling because apparently the hockey world never fucking learns that 27 games is not a very good sample size for you to project, is this guy any good or not? It was a lot nicer when Philip Grubauer had 4 seasons as a really good backup and not just the one magical year,
Right.
And so like you had Dreger, you had Vanacek, and I think that probably made a guy like Ron Francis, who is, as a general manager, obviously was an unbelievable player, but as a general manager is absolutely mortified of his own fears. He is. There's no general manager in the entire NHL who is more afraid of a mistake and more afraid of his own fear of that mistake than Ron Francis. He will take.
He'd rather never make a trade with anyone.
Exactly.
Than risk losing a trade.
Exactly. He will go down with every decision that he makes because he is afraid to make a bigger mistake along the way. So, which of course is how you compound mistakes, is when you just eat them. Yeah. Like there's some wisdom, and sometimes you just roll with it instead of trying to fix it all the time, instead of Band-Aid your way through life. But he doesn't do anything. He's the guy that will if he gets sick, he cuts the arm and lets the bad blood out, right? Like
it goes in his blood,
right? And it's just he's a mess. As a GM, he's a mess. And they Larson and Alexiak, and then they've got money. They give it to Grubauer. They give it to Jaden Schwartz. They commit to Yanni Gourde.
But you look at Grubauer, and that looks like a sure bet. It's a guy coming off
and like
a Vezina year. I mean, he was a candidate.
Even the analytics, even when the analytics said, hey, he's not an elite goaltender, they still said, hey, he's a pretty good goddamn goalie.
We'll get league average out of him, right?
Like, it was funny because people were like, well, the numbers are all telling you he's not this good, but they weren't saying he was anywhere near bad.
Yeah.
He was still like a top 15 goalie, and then he just comes in and is the worst. Yeah. The worst. So he'll definitely get better, and it's also like Jonas Donskoy, right? 0 goals. He has his 2 highest scoring years of his career
in Colorado.
He has his 2 highest shooting percentages. You look at his analytics, he drives offense at a much higher rate than he ever did in San Jose. In Colorado, his usage is different. He's totally cratered under Dave Haxtell, who sucks as a head coach and was very predictable. Like, I should say sucks as an NHL head coach because he was great in college.
Yeah.
North Dakota.
Yeah, exactly. I knew you were familiar. But he's not it in the NHL, and it's obvious he's not it. And you look at Donskoy, and like this is the thing that worries me tonight is that you've got 2 former Avs, 2 pretty important former Avs coming back
looking
into
for
Denver,
a pop-off,
who are both badly needing to turn things around. And they're going against a team that, let's be real, they've won 11 in a row at home, but there have been some moments just in the last week.
Haven't made it easy on themselves.
They could have easily lost both the Anaheim and Toronto games.
And the other factor there, too, is like, are the Avs going to be able to get up for this game like they have,
Yeah, I mean, you have it's a definite trap game because you're coming off the big comeback against the Maple Leafs.
Yep.
Marquee matchup. Everybody's talking about you. Everybody was talking about you all week after the Cale Makar and Chicago goal. You're kind of the darling again, one of the darlings of the NHL. Your star is on the rise. You're getting healthy. People are starting to believe in you again. Everybody's starting to feel good about you. You're going into division-leading Nashville tomorrow night.
Yep.
And tonight you're playing against bottom feeder Seattle at home. This is a classic trap game.
Yep.
All right. We do have to go rapid fire here a little bit on the Avs side. Both Jack Johnson and Val Nichushkin back into the lineup. Nuke is dropping in on that second line, as we already talked about a little bit. Can he help clean up a little bit of the mess defensively on this team?
More than anything, he needs to help on the PK, which Jared Bednar, clearly a listener of the show, said that they were making major structural changes. Nuke needs to be part of that. I mean, I don't give a shit about losing the offense, losing the face-off. Let it be their first PK unit needs to be Val Nichushkin and Logan O'Connor.
They're their best forward penalty killers on the team.
They need to be the guys. And then your second unit needs to be Tyson Jost and anybody but Darren Helm.
Sounds
Logan
about right.
O'Connor can see the future when he's doing penalty kill. That's just all there is to it.
Yeah. Major structural changes promised. I want to see them.
Yeah.
Hopefully they don't have any penalties tonight. We know better. We'll see it.
Logan O'Connor's like the Loch Ness Monster, just lurking in
Just
the zone,
lurking,
and then
yeah.
he sticks his head up. Everyone goes, "What's that?" And then he's gone. Go buy the Loch Ness Monster shirt, by the way, if you're a Loke fan. It's out there. You can get it at the DNVR locker right now. Nuke expected to have a positive impact for sure back in the lineup. Jack Johnson in for Ryan Murray. It's bottom pairing defense. We talk about a million times. Don't really need to get too much into that.
Excited to see Nuke, though. I am
Yes.
excited. It's
Yeah.
a weird reality to be like, NICHUSKIN's back.
Well, he was trending in the right direction.
Look, he
before
needed
got that
a
injury.
week off. He needed to aloe up the hands a whole bunch
That's
for a
right.
week.
That's right. Starting to get a little stone
Moisturizer.
handsy. Yeah. That little gargoyle feel was coming back in him. He just went and dipped his hands in some paraffin wax for a week.
There you go. All right, Betmaster Blais. I'm told you have 8 bets on this hockey
Yeah, I'm not
game
going to go
tonight.
through all of them because we don't really have time to. But, knowing that Landeskog was out, I was looking to Mikko Rantanen, especially after last game. That
Keep it rolling.
He has an over 1.5 points at plus 120.
Decent money against a weak Seattle team.
Yep.
Yeah, that factor makes me think good bet. Otherwise, I'm like, that's a sucker's bet.
I also have the Colorado Avalanche money line on the first period.
The
Just
20-minute line.
Because
All right.
the full money line, there's
Yeah, you're
no
getting
value
bad
there
odds on
whatsoever.
that,
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sure.
smart.
I mean, it's minus 110, so it's almost even money.
For the Avs to win one period.
Win
Yep.
the first period.
Yep. All right. So did you
anything
take
else?
goal in the first 10 on top of that?
I did not take that. I couldn't find that one. They were like switching bets around all day.
They're never sure what they want to give you for the Avs these days, for sure.
I also do have Donskoy to score a goal.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a good bet. It just is a good bet. All right, Kerfoot scored for Toronto the other night. It's just a
I even
given.
said at the end of that show, I was like, Kerfoot's that guy.
Yep.
We were talking X factors.
Yep.
So
And then again, like Makar assist, minus 120.
hammer it every night. Yep.
It's almost a sure thing.
What are his goals? It's got to be not great,
It can't
right?
be.
No,
Great, yeah.
no.
He's got too many of those. All right. Jump on it. Go get your bets at DraftKings Sportsbook. Bet on the Avs a lot in this one. I feel good. I know some people feel like it's a trap game. I feel good. So we'll see.
Yeah.
If anybody has to claim to not be the walrus, clearly they're the walrus.
True.
Good Lord.
It's true.
We see you, dog.
All right. We're going to get out of here. Puck drop some like 6-7 minutes away. Hope y'all enjoy the game. We'll be back post-game immediately after, so be sure to tune into that. Same YouTube channel, same people. We'll see you there. Have a good one.
No QAnon.